Welcome back and many thanks for staying with us right here on Morning at NTV. My name is Romeo Busiki. Well, this year, Silent Voices collaborated with director and actor, that is Gilbert Lukalia's Gilbert Productions, to come up with some great work. That is Subira. Subira is an African story inspired by real-life events in Nairobi, the 1982 coup in Kenya. The production is entirely showing at the Kenya National Theatre. So in that respect, I'm going to be talking to Andrew Kaggwa, an arts and culture journalist with the Daily Monitor. We also do have, yes, that is Mr. Kasozi, a music director working on Subira too. Then we do have Gilbert Lukalia, the co-director of Subira, who shall be joining us via Zoom. A very good morning, Mr. Gilbert Lukalia. Thank you for joining us on Morning at NTV.
And it's an African minute.
Yes, we'd like to know why this story is really important. Tell us about the process working with Judith Adong, who being a Ugandan may not know or be savvy with the history of Kenya. So talk to us about the creative process working on Subira. Gilbert?
That was Good morning. My name is Gilbert Lukalia. I'm not sure. There was a bit of lack of clarity from your side. I don't know. Yeah. But I'm the co-director of Subira. I'm also featuring as an actor, and I'm also, like a collaborator in other aspects.
We would like to know why this story is important. Judith Adong being a Ugandan, she may not be savvy with Kenyan history, but then here you are working with her. So we would like to know about the creative process. What was it like?
For Subira is an artistic expression, and any artistic expression is valid and sometimes transcends time. What we're doing here, we are doing fiction. We're telling a fictitious story with a historical perspective, like the coup that happened in Kenya 1982. And for me, as a Kenyan especially, and as someone who was in the middle of it, I feel it is important that many generations that don't know, well, not generations really at the moment, but many people who don't know about the coup would know that indeed we had a coup that lasted 6 hours, and and basically, what a better way than entertainment and Subira. That is what Subira offers, and the process has been quite a long one. Working with the Dong, it's an enjoyable process because this idea was mooted in 2017 when I worked in Kampala on a play called Just You, Me, and the Silence with Silent Voices Uganda. And from there, it became a back and forth. She would come here, we'd stay a few days, then go back, write a first draft, second draft, share with me. I do my input a bit, and here we are.
All right, thank you very much. You had something to react to?
Yes, Gilbert, my name is Andrew Kaggwa, a great fan of your work. That's when we talk about film, and then when we talk about theater. I was lucky enough to see you in Judith Adong, Just You, Me, and the Silence. And of course, I know you've worked with some Ugandan filmmakers to produce a film. But I would just want to know, like, why now? Why is it very important to bring this story to life now?
Subira, why now? I think it's about I'm sure you understand sometimes that as artists, sometimes you have an expression, and then you find that this is the time to say it. We're not targeting anything. The only thing that we are targeting with our story that is very specific is that we also wanted our story, Subira, to be staged during the time when the coup really happened. Because now, like on the 1st of August, the coup, that is when the coup happened 39 years ago. So we decided, let's run this from July 30th into 8th of August, because then on the date of 1st, then it would be very iconic. That's really the only thing. But if you eventually sit down to watch Subira, you will understand that it's a story that knows no time. It's a story that can be done 20 years from now. It's a story that can be done 50 years from now. It's just like Titanic, you know. The passenger liner sank in 1920s, but the story was done in 1990s, you know. So to me, it's a very relevant story. It's an expression of art. And we just felt together with Silent Voices that our energies are right to do this collaboration. And I think that's the ideal time, if you ask me.
To use a Kenyan for this story, because Judith Dong is a Ugandan who may not have the same attachment to this Kenyan story, because it's like doing the something about the 1986 war right here in Uganda, and then we bring in Nameless from Kenya, who would not have the same attachment to that story in Uganda or events. So wouldn't you have been in a better position to actually have someone who is Kenyan? But why Judith Dong? Is it her prowess?
First of all, I don't think, I believe art is a very universal language. And with all due respect, I feel it would be wrong to look at Subira as a story of the coup. It's not a story of the coup. Subira is a story inspired by the coup, okay? It's inspired by the coup, but it's a love story. It's a story about betrayal. Stories are about betrayal, about revenge, about trust, about hope, about ambition, about those things. Yeah. Like for example, we love Titanic, but most of us never saw the passenger liner, the British passenger liner that sank many years ago. We didn't, but we still love it. Why? Because of the love story, because of these two, a poor boy meets a rich girl. Yeah, and to me, that is what Subira is majorly about. Subira is majorly about a boy who loved a girl in the village and then got recruited in the army and then made promises to this girl, telling them that, you know, I'll come back, I'll take care of you. But on the day, or rather after they pass out from the army, then the coup happens and he becomes, you know, it gets stuck in the middle. The girlfriend cannot travel to Nairobi to meet him. So eventually that love gets lost. And eventually his friend, the brother, actually he's somebody he called brother, betrayed him. To me, that is the coup is a sub-story. It's a B-plot, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So I wouldn't really want people to focus so much on the coup. I wouldn't want people to say, oh, you know, there's no way Judith can write a story about the coup. I think she can, with references from people who have witnessed it, or even reading material that is available. You know, she might not. It might be off it being done in Kampala, for example, but I don't think as a theatrical representation. Because, lastly, let me just say this, because I'm sure there are other contributions that are needed. The aspect of the coup in our play lasts for about maybe 1 hour. But they start 1 hour and they affect the plot eventually for the next 1 hour out of 3 hours, you know. So it shouldn't be really a point of focus.
All right, thank you very much, Gilbert. Let's also bring in Kasozi, the music director who was working on Subira. Kasozi, tell us about your experience working on this project, working with Judith Dong. How's it been?
Good morning. Yeah, it has been a really good experience, particularly during the time when the music was being conceptualized.
Right.
Because for a long time it has been hard to utilize certain skills that we have for musical theater, because it's not like a genre that is done a lot in Uganda. And so to have collaboration whereby we are able to exploit those skills and share those skills with others was really a good experience. And doing it with Adong
Go ahead.
was really, really a special experience. So from the conception point all the way to coming to get the thing to be on stage.
Yes.
Developing the music, developing arrangements and compositions, and then to see it fully blossoming on stage, involving romance, involving action, given that there's all the army type of stuff, as well as the love story element, where the music of the love story like juxtaposes strongly with the music, the action music that is from the army side. That contrast was also very good. So we were able to do loads of styles cutting across music that is verging on kind of rock, blues, then some elements of African elements going into soca, then using like some elements of kwasa kwasa, then using traditional elements, all kind of like fused into one big ball, like to cut across the love story and then the army routines.
Indeed.
It has been a great experience.
Because how important is this story to you?
The story to me, like from a music, because I have to speak from a music perspective, pretty much. The story is really important in the sense that it's one of those, like the elements like Gilbert just talked about, things like betrayal, trust, hope, ambition, and looking for one's place within society, within the world, and within the world one has grown in, and moving from village to the city, and then city to the village, and so on. So most of those elements are universal in some ways for us, and I could relate to elements within the love story, but to also those elements of things like ambition, trust, and betrayal. And so if I'm looking at it from a musical perspective, these were things that I really could dig into. I could like coax things out of them, because they're things that you have either experienced or you're still experiencing, and we have all gone through these kinds of elements. So I've found it very, very, very connecting to me. So it was easy to actually relate.
Kasozi, music director with Subira. Let's also bring in an arts and culture journalist with the Daily Monitor, Andrew Kaggwa. Talk about the overview of this conversation. Talk about theatre as a whole. It helps us acquaint young people, especially. We are talking about a young generation within the East African region, especially Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, all these countries. It's a young population. So theatre, bringing such stories would help acquaint the younger population with the history that they are not savvy about. But then theatre, the fact is, has been dying. Many of the young people are not embracing theatre. It's the other way around. It's the elderly people, the adults, who are embracing theatre. Let's talk about the push factors that are killing theatre.
Funny thing is, in 2017, I think after I had watched Silent Voices, Me, Myself, and the Silence, later that year we had a theatre festival. Like there is a theatre festival that has been going on in Kampala before COVID. And this was coming at a time when everyone was saying theatre is dying. And after these shows, I remember we came out and we were like, just be calm, theatre is here to stay. Yeah, so I believe most of the times when people say theatre is dying in Uganda or in East Africa, at times they are looking at places, because places have had issues. There was a time when the Kenyan National Theatre had issues, and I think the Uganda National Theatre, that one still has issues. But theatre's theatre, maybe it's going to evolve. Maybe the way we consume it is not the same, because the way you see people consume theatre at the National Theatre is not the same way the people that go to Bat Valley are going to consume it. And even the way the theatre makers in these two places deliver their message is completely different. So most of the times when someone crosses from the National Theatre and they go to Bat Valley and they see that kind of theatre, they will be like, okay, maybe theatre is dying. But for those people that consume it from those spaces, it's very much alive. I think I cannot say it is dying, but I could say truth is more support is needed. And it's not just to theater, it's to art as a whole. Like, I think, one, we need to decolonize it. Like, when I say decolonize it, we need to understand that it's not meant to be hidden away in these spaces. Like, theater can be community. Like, people can enjoy theater as a community without necessarily having this whole expensive building where you need a lot of lights or going to a particular place.
Meaning, if I'm in Gulu, in Moyo, I'll miss out on all this. But the people in Kampala who are in close proximity with this national theatre will be able to go and watch all this.
Yeah, and of course, with Uganda's case, you need to ask yourself, how many spaces do we even have?
Indeed.
So if you look at the fact that we only have a space that's very professional, we need to be thinking more in terms of community theatre. We need to be looking at community centres. Okay, there used to be community centres those days, and they used to also double as community theatres for those that needed a building. But still there was community theatre which just used to happen in the open, or amphitheatres and then pop-up theatres. So I don't really believe theatre in the East African region is dying. Like, there are places that have issues, and probably the management of those spaces.
Go ahead. Let's also bring in Gilbert. Gilbert, let's talk about the fact that you do have a raging COVID-19 pandemic. Kenya is grappling with some 208,000 cases plus of COVID-19, but you are in theatre. You are staging these productions against the reports that people are falling sick against COVID-19. How have you been able to pull this off in the midst of this pandemic?
Well, it's quite unfortunate, I must say, that that's happening. But when we consulted highly before we did this, and we have all the COVID prevention measures are being taken. All of our cast and crew was tested and vaccinated, so that we are just safe. But like even the auditorium, because there's no way, this is the government auditorium. There's no way we'd have done this if the government was like, no, you close it down. So it was highly consulted with the management of the Kenya Cultural Center. And yeah, there's social distancing. In case we have those big houses, it will not be to capacity. And instead of 360, we are looking at a capacity of just close to 200 because of social distancing and everything else. Yeah.
Gilbert, I would like to understand, is this the very first production happening in the Kenyan National Theatre after the pandemic, or there have been others before that?
There have been, the theatre officially opened this year, I think it was March. And almost every other weekend there's something, whether a theater play or a comedy show or something. There's always something. Like even last weekend, while we were doing our technical week, when we were starting our technical week, there was a group that had even huge houses. Like the audiences are. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the thirst that has been there. People have been locked away from the theaters for so long, so they want to come back and interact with their art. I don't know, but yeah, it's not the first one. There has been several. Maybe this year I would count up to, since April, I would say maybe 7 or 8 performances have been done at the National Theatre.
Go ahead. Gilbert, we do know that film industry is actually taking over, killing the theatre. Give us a status quo situation analysis of how things are looking like within Kenya.
Film industry?
Yes, the film industry is taking over. People are neglecting theatre and so forth, especially here in Uganda. But is it any different? Is the story different within Kenya?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe you guys look at it from outside, but you see, I have to look at it from inside. And of course, even as I bear so much ambition and hope, I must easily say that we are not quite where we are. Maybe in comparison, if we're doing comparisons, then it's easy to do that. But even for me, like one of the reasons I initiated, let me just put it that way, I initiated this collaborations with Silent Voices is because I feel we need to broaden our market, our artistic market, because even for films, it would be I think it would mean more to us, more lucrative to actors and producers if we had, films that can be bought and, highly so in all the East African countries, because film is a business that requires numbers. Nollywood is what it is because of numbers. Broadway, Hollywood is what it is because of numbers. Bollywood, you can go on and on. So for me, I feel yes, as much as quality-wise, we are doing it. Yeah, same as you guys, really. When I have friends and I've worked with people like, from Kampala, and I know the capacity there as well. I watch Lukman's films, and I know the quality is not in doubt at all. But now the market is what we really need to build. And I think if we could, what I like saying, compartmentalize the East African market, then that would be a good start.
Well, that's a very interesting perspective from the marketing. And talking Subira a bit more, how are the audiences in Nairobi reacting to Subira?
Ecstatic. It's I'll be lying. There's no negative review I've had, not even one. I have friends who watched on Wednesday. They watched on Wednesday at 2 p.m. and they're coming in today. And they have done, and this I'm talking about what we here in Nairobi and Kenya call celebrities. They came and watched the show, and they have done videos. They pushed the videos online, and they are like, we are coming back for the 6 o'clock today. Yeah. Subira is very well received. The technical aspect of it, the artistic expression, everything, the music, everything is so high level. I think some people might joke that this does not belong to our sort of society and setup. They might say, oh, it belongs to Broadway, which I really think it does. But I also I'm hopeful of creating our own little Broadway here, and not necessarily, run away there to seek lucrative, ventures.
Right.
But yeah, Subira is very well received. I'm actually, I don't know if I should say this,
Say it.
but we are in the process of even, a friend of mine was like, watched on Wednesday, was like, I want to come in on Friday, and then we can sit down and look at the possibilities around this musical, because he really believes that it's something that should be watched widely. And wow. I do believe the same.
Oh, you're talking about Subira, a musical in, Kenya, focusing on the 1982 coup, the events that inspired this very, very wonderful musical. But would theatre actually make it right here in Uganda, now that we are talking about the COVID-19 pandemic? Everything is largely closed. Can we borrow a lift from what the Kenyans are doing? Can Uganda also reopen and our theatre continues running, artists coming out to do what they do best?
Truth is...
What is the difference between Uganda and Kenya? Because they have more cases, they've reopened. They have 208,000, we have 94,000. We are still under lock and key when it comes to cinemas.
I think one of the things I would say is that they are more organized. Okay. The only reason we are not open, probably we do not have a lot of goodwill when it comes to the way our government looks at the arts. I mean, even when you see how they look at the arts or the creative economy in our manifesto, most of the times it's talked about in terms of entertainment, yet it's a full economy that's employing people, that's giving opportunities, and it's also educating.
So you have officials who even wonder why an individual would go to Makerere to study MDD, music, dance, and drama.
So many of the reasons why we are not open at the moment entirely could be entirely because we are not organized that much. But before the pandemic happened, before all this happened, I could say even when the numbers were not that good, people are making very good theater. We used to see, for instance, I remember Silent Voices used to stage a play every year. The very first two of the actors in Subira, the very first time I saw two of the actors in Subira, that's Gilbert and Nia Githingi. Nia, okay, I don't think she's Githingi, but she's Nia. The very first time I saw them, they were in Uganda and they were part of two productions of Silent Voices. Gilbert, it was me, myself, and the Silence, and Nia was 6 hours in Harlem. There were 6 productions.
I can see Gilbert smiling.
Where she featured a lot. So like we've been doing things. We that's why I told you earlier that we used to say, be calm, theater is fine, like regardless of what people say that theater is going or theater is dying. We're like, be calm, theater is still alive. Though I'm not very confident to say that right now. Probably Gilbert can tell us like what are the key points like Uganda theater makers can take away, like how do we handle the situation, especially in Uganda where we do not do like we are going to be opening soon.
Essentially, can we borrow and leave, Gilbert, from what you're doing in Kenya?
I can't pretend to offer a solution. What I know is that when things are normal, Uganda makes theater, and I've been a witness to that, and it's good. It's a lovely theater. I don't know about the numbers. I don't know about the consumption, but like I think Andrew was saying, we have the advantage of a bit of goodwill. Like look, the Kenya Cultural Center has collaborated with Subira Production in levels that we would never have imagined. You know. You'd be like, no, this is just a government that they need payment for the auditorium and everything. But when we needed even emergency rehearsals because of other technical issues, they were available to give that to us. So I think even with after this pandemic, because I'm confident, of course, it will end. I feel the infrastructure will grow. I think that's something like very automatic. What, however, I'm not sure about is the culture of theater and the consumption of theater to great levels of profitability. That I'm not sure, because the truth of the matter is that even us here, we struggle with that. Yeah, we struggle so much that if a show is not funded, then the houses cannot guarantee you, like breaking even. But I must say, I can't pretend to offer solutions. Maybe it's something I would need to sit down and study and But yeah.
Yes, Gilbert, before the COVID-19 pandemic, you had hoped to have Souvenir come through to Uganda and post this production right here in Uganda. Is there a chance of this happening when things normalize?
I can only speak about my feelings about the story, the idea, the level of execution. I want it to be showcased in Kampala. I do.
All right, let's also bring in Kasozi. Kasozi, a very good morning once again. I'd like to talk about how we can grow the culture of theater and its consumption to ensure profitability for those who produce and those who are actually consuming the products coming through. Kasozi, what needs to be done to ensure that we, grow the culture of theater and its consumption?
I can't say that I have such solutions, but from what I've seen, like what is a little bit different here, that perhaps we could emulate to bring our theater culture to be a little bit more equitable and more sustainable is first of all, for those institutions that already exist, say the UNCC, for example, to support productions a little bit more, because there are certain things, as Gilbert just outlined, we wouldn't have been able to do technically if the Kenya National Theatre didn't actually forward a hand during technical rehearsals for us to get certain elements right, to get access in times that normally you wouldn't have been able to get, I'm assuming. Like you would have to pay for it and pay dearly, I'm assuming. So we need these institutions to actually not only forward that hand, but also to reach out to audiences, to build an audience, because you can make all the theater you want, but if you're not building audiences, it will not be equitable, and it certainly won't be sustainable. So and in Uganda right now, that's the struggle in theater. Like people can do quality productions, but who's going to watch them? Indeed. So we have to cultivate like an audience. Indeed. We have to bring young people into the theater.
Amazing. We
have to basically reach out to them. The problem that I've seen mostly in Uganda is that with a lot of theater productions, people are reaching to, you're kind of preaching to the choir, always reaching out to the same people, to the same audiences, instead of like trying to cultivate new audiences to reach out farther to younger people. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Kasozi. Let me also bring in an arts and culture journalist with the Daily Monitor, Andrew Kasozi. Let's get your 2 cents on this.
Kaggwa.
What needs to be done to make sure that we grow this industry? All right.
The truth is, it's so hard to say what can be done to, because you see, when it comes to film, where the people I usually deal with film, like there was a time where you could see we have a problem with the lighting, we have a problem with the sound, we have a problem. Like right now, I know the problem with film is the storytelling. When it comes to theater, at times you feel like since time immemorial we've been doing wonderful theater. I mean, I still remember the times of Ndiwulida. And then I've watched plays that were even way older, the times when people did Muduma Kwekwafe, Limbara Wankoko, very amazing productions. And I will not talk about that. But we've been having very wonderful productions, and yet for some reason the numbers, we got to that point where the numbers started going down. We could have blamed it on the people that were running spaces, because they have some blame to take, but there are more reasons why the numbers went down.
Andrew Kaggwa. Me as a person, I'll tell you that I used to love theater, the Ebonies and so forth. I would watch, but then at some point I was like, can they make that switch and start making movies out of what they are doing in these theaters? I waited for years.
But it's not like everyone wants to watch these stories in a movie form. Like you see, there is a freedom that comes with theater, and that freedom is, I can be on theater and I'm totally acting as a 70-year-old woman, actually a 70-year-old white woman, and no one will question my blackness. You cannot have such liberties when you're talking about. When you're talking about film, like you either have to dress me up, you like there are many things you'll have to do, but I can be 70 years old and white and female the way I am on theater, and it will be very believable. So there are certain freedoms that come with theater, with that way of telling stories. So I do not believe people should migrate to tell stories. I believe theater needs to stay, and theater is the beginning, literally, of everything. If you look at our film scope, if you're to look at the people that are doing the directing, if you're to say the famous TV shows we have at the moment, you look at the people that are doing the directing, you look at the actors, you look at the producers, most of them cut their teeth in theater. So So, like, I don't think we even need to migrate, but we need to grow an audience. We need to catch them young. I think there was a time where there were theater competitions in high schools and primary schools, which, if you ask me if they still exist, I do not know. I cannot tell you they no longer exist because I've not researched that, but I do not think they're existing, or if they're existing, they are not as vibrant as they were then.
Even the topics that theatre is focusing on, the viewer would like to know why love is usually the topic they are focusing on, and not politics. Why theatre has decided to play, it's safe and not focus on politics. Subira is focusing on the love story inspired by the coup. So we are not focusing on the coup itself. The Konyi story, the movie we did here, we were not focusing on the movie itself, but the love story that took center stage during that process. There is that behavior coming in from the artists to avoid the politics and rather focus on the love stories. Yet it is theater, it is movies, it is film that can bring about political change.
They are not avoiding the politics, they're actually telling the politics.
Through the love story.
Yes, one thing people do not know about storytelling, like that's world over. Each and every movie you've watched, each and every film you've watched, regardless of how political you thought it was a love story. Like all films that have been told, all theaters that has been told, let's say the Hamilton story, it's a love story. There is an underlying love story, whether you like it or not.
Do you know a theatrical, musical, or showcasing I would never miss? One that tells us what happened between 1981 and 1986.
But regardless of how it will be written, there will be an underlying love story.
That will
drive the politics.
Because it will dilute the whole story of trying to acquaint the younger population of what transpired between 1981 and 1986.
Because people naturally love to care about things, or love to care about someone. That's why love plays a very big role in storytelling. Like you always need to get your audience to either love someone and care for someone. That's how they get connected to a character.
But can we use theater, can we use film to actually acquaint our younger people about their political history?
Yes, because I can tell you that not just, okay, this is not a Ugandan example, but in 2015, the US was moving to remove Alexander Hamilton from the $10 bill because they wanted to replace him with Harriet Tubman. And then a show opened telling Alexander Hamilton's story, how he was one of the founding fathers and his contributions. What happened after the show were people protesting his removal from the $10 bill. They were like, no, you can't remove him. Maybe find another bill to put Harriet Tubman, but you can't remove Alexander Hamilton. So, and these were young people. And most of the people in the US, or even outside the US, personally, I know more about Alexander Hamilton because of the Alexander Hamilton musical. So, theater and music or art can do pretty much in telling people about their history, who built what, who contributed what. They can do a lot.
Like the Mwanga story, when he ordered for the killing of those Christians, you understand, we could do a musical, a theater musical, focusing on those events. But then a wise artist will come and focus on a love story of two individuals.
Trust me, that love story will drive the narrative. It will drive the history. It will tell the history. Like at times you don't even notice they are telling the history, but the history, the rich history is there. You get to learn about the people, you get to learn about how they carried on with their lives. I think the whole thing about art communicating is that it's never direct. It's never, it's intended, but it doesn't have to look intended.
Let's ask Gilbert if they are always trying to avoid the politics. Gilbert, if you're still with us, very good morning once again. When you actually inculcate this love story into a political conversation, are you trying to avoid the politics of the day because of the political atmosphere that we are dealing with within the African settings? You say something that is really critical of the government, and then they come for you. So the safest way is to bring in a love story.
No, not exactly.
All right.
Let me just start by saying actually that just because I say the coup and the love story, it doesn't mean that all there is to it. There is politics. There is heavy politics in Subira.
Nice.
There is the disintegration of the military that eventually even maybe led to the coup, because there is tribalism, there is all that, and we are highlighting all that in a very uncomfortable way, if you ask me, in a way that with my experience 15 years ago, if we were doing Subira, probably the government would have come and said we are not doing that. You know, the Kenya National Theatre, the Kenya Cultural Center would not have collaborated with us because of the things that we are bringing to surface. Because we have really, you can imagine a situation where we are highlighting tribalism in the military, you know, and we are doing that loudly. And it's actually even amazing that it's being brought forth by a Ugandan writer, because it surprised me as well, in a good way, that Judith can very articulately identify the problems with our ecosystem and culturalization and highlight them in a very intelligent way. Love, you cannot avoid love, because again, when you love, then you hate more. When you are too high up, then the drop is bigger, and that is why we want to cry eventually. We want to vouch for people. We want to vouch for the characters in this play.
Yes,
you know.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not because we want to sugarcoat stuff. It's not necessarily that. It's because chronology is very boring most of the time.
Yeah,
it's very lethargic. It's very, they do this and this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
So what most brilliant writers, especially, and which I think Adong is one of those.
Yeah.
What they do is they get all these historical mixes of things, and then they throw something in there that is extraordinary, and then it is that thing that will make you want to watch it more, want to fall in love with it more. I want to agree that indeed that we need not shy away from the politics of the land.
Yeah.
We need to do theater and even films that will, because art is a powerful tool.
Yes, it is.
We can sit down here and talk about countries that were revolutionized by art, you know, and so I really second that we shouldn't shy away from that. We should really go out there and hit hard politically. I actually call myself an artist, because that's what I do.
Indeed.
As well. I am very loud. Yeah, I'm very loud. I have fought the government in many ways. And I intend to do that even more.
Indeed. I like that. He mentioned something that art has revolutionized some governments in that regard. Could it be the reason why some governments are shying away from actually funding such organizations, funding theater, funding the arts, because sometimes many of whom that are in this industry are political activists?
It's because art is a language.
Bobby,
art is a language, and everyone kind of digs into it. Like, you don't need to, at times you might not need a degree or even education to understand what an artist is saying. So it could be
the behavior of the government not funding the arts. Are they afraid if you grow this industry, then they'll in turn bite you at the end of the day? Produce, work that is so critical of your government and so
because when you fund this industry, one, you're creating very empowered young people.
I see.
This industry is
who know their history, who are very well informed. You can't lie to them anymore.
Empowered in all forms. They will be empowered in knowledge. They will have jobs, because this is an industry that will never get tired of employing people. For example, I can tell you we can have 2,000 singers in Uganda, and each of those 2,000 singers has 2,000 people listening to them. So that's how big or strong the art industry can be. So that's why in many countries where there are dictatorial tendencies, people will try to defranchise the arts. I do not want to say it's happening in Uganda, but I could say the things I'm seeing of people gathering people in one space to currently teach them farming. Like, I mean, you're teaching artists farming. It's not a bad thing, but you're basically telling them to leave art. Like, most of those people are trying to defranchise this industry. And yeah, this is the camera we look in.
Indeed.
You will fail.
Indeed. Our artists are really not empowered, because if they were, they wouldn't be in Gulu trying to beg Salim Saleh for some money. They would be in some studio somewhere, in some theater somewhere, trying to come up with creative work. But all that time, since they are not empowered, they're spending it running amok within Gulu, trying to knock on Salim Saleh's gate.
I will tell you that we do not need to worry about Gulu. We do not need to worry about anything going on in Gulu, because art can work regardless of how people try to oppress it. It can always coexist. It always evolves. It always finds a way of coming out. So regardless, even if we wake up and all the people in Gulu stop making music, some young chaps will show up and they will make music. Even if we wake up and they tell us there will be no more concerts in Uganda, some chaps will wake up, make music, and they'll put it on YouTube or any platform.
That's what we are talking about.
And people will listen to it. Even if we wake up and they say no more YouTube and internet, people will do community performances, and then it will be probably door to door. Like, art is always evolving. That's how powerful it is, and it's probably the reason why people are very afraid of it and they think they can deal with it.
And we would have many of our artists actually create so much creative work during this COVID-19 pandemic if they were not running amok within Gulu. It has killed them so much.
Definitely we would.
Because right now, I'll be in a very tough situation, right? I do not have money. I do not have any way of making ends meet because of the coronavirus pandemic. But if I put all that suffering, all that dire situation in a play, then I go to the National Theatre. How many will relate? Millions, because we are in the same position. But guess what they're doing? They're in Gulu. Go ahead. They're not empowered.
So anyway, we every day, like, the more this industry is oppressed, the more it produces critical people.
Indeed.
Because those critical people have found ways of dealing with it, even in the current situation. So I'm one of the people that are not afraid of whatever is going on. Young people are going to come up and they are going to inspire masses.
If I was there at the theatre, I would do something about the coronavirus pandemic under Kaggwa. I would talk about the artists who are running amok in Gulu in the same theatre, and I would give recommendations of how to improve this industry and so forth. So they have to be creative now more than ever, because if I'm doing badly and I don't put that situation of a dire suffering into a play, and then I go to Saleh, he gives me 200 million. I'm back and I don't remember the suffering I went through. Instead of being creative with my brain, I'm going to focus on eating that money. It won't help me at all because I can't relate anymore with those who are suffering. Let me also bring in Gilbert. We talk about your last 2 cents before I let you go. Gilbert and Kasozi, let's talk about what have stakeholders in Kenya done that Ugandans may actually pick from you. Let me start with you, Gilbert.
There's a time in 20.
Yes.
Well, let me just say I was the first Kenya Actors Guild chair, and that's the one thing that I really think that we are doing, or we are trying to do. Every little step counts. We are trying to institutionalize our practices so that the Actors Guild is there, the Writers Guild is there. We are forming a Directors Guild. We have collective management organizations that collect royalties on behalf of performing artists. That has been really a thorn in the wrong places, but because we've had fights, money, being squandered and stuff like that. But it's a step either way. It's a step in the right direction. And then, which I think I cannot say that I mean, Ugandan artists are not doing, because I know, actually most of the Ugandan artists I know of have really sought advancement of their skill in terms of schooling, in terms of education, workshops, and everything. So that to me, I think that is important. It's important. I really think I need to talk about this because it's a problem that challenge, not a problem, a challenge that we all face. Uh, uh, I like calling it as basic as hunger, and not the hunger to do good stuff or the hunger to create art. It is the hunger for money.
Yes.
And then and that has really, really sent people in the wrong direction. Even away from the other practices of farming and everything, but even artistically, you find that you, and I know it is even in Kampala, there is more comedy
Thank you very much.
profound art. You know, I think that is
Thank
one
you,
thing that we
Gilbert, for
really
bringing
need to
that
take
out.
care of. Yeah, we need to we need to we need to, I don't know, maybe another solution is those people who make it eventually need to come and reinvest back in the industry. We are one of the few industries as well that only looks at taking and taking and taking. We don't give back. We Gilbert Lukalia will not do a film and then make millions of Kenyan shillings and then put them back in a Kenyan theater production
Yes,
that
Gilbert.
will empower young people. So I really think we need to give the industry as much as we take from it, because if we keep taking and taking and taking and nothing giving it nothing, then it
Yes.
will die a natural death. Yeah.
All right, let me also bring in Kasozi. Give us your last 2 cents or parting shots to the people who are watching, but you can also react to the conversation that Andrew Kaggwa talked about and Gilbert. We were talking about whether or not inculcating a love story in a political event would actually dilute the political message that you want to put forward. Your 2 cents on that.
Yeah, in Uganda, of course, we are facing similar problems that Gilbert just talked about. But it's good to see that people are trying to advance themselves,
Yes.
at least individually, to kind of like improve how their mode of expression, to improve within their discipline. But it would be good for us to have more of these institutions that can kind of standardize what we're doing. You know, to have guilds like composers guilds, producers guilds, actors
Organized.
guilds, and directors guilds, and those sorts of things, whereby there can be a standard or some kind of benchmarks that this is the standard, these are the rates, this is what is expected of an actor, so that when someone gets into the industry, they kind of like have a direction that kind of has some element of concreteness, so that even the people who are hiring can trust when they know that this person is from such and such a guild, or they're registered in such a guild or association, that person is trusted. You have a certain expectation of the standard. But now the way it stands is that people just proclaim themselves to be whatever they are. They'll just come up and say, I'm a composer, and so I am, just because, you know. But then the question now would be, what is that person actually delivering when they actually deliver to you what they have either composed, or when they come to direct or to act or whatever. So we need forms of standardizing our work. And I know there are many associations mushrooming up in Uganda at the moment, and everyone is trying to cocoon and have their own little facet of like,
yes.
we are this. But I think just by the fact that they're so numerous,
yes,
it shows that we are still lacking direction
in organization.
You know, otherwise there won't be just so many mushrooming up, whereby the industry then is kind of a little bit decimated. So that is where we really have a problem, like to get together. And it's really hard at the moment to know what would be the solution for us to get this. But I think it's up to us, those of us who are already within the industry, especially if we're doing things and those things bring us, we become maybe renowned within the industry and respected within the industry, and or we able to make something of ourselves. One of the things, like, we could give back, as Gilbert was talking about we could give back. Sometimes it's not directly financial, but like to kind of bring people together, because if people trust you and respect you more, you're more likely to bring people together so that we can have build those kinds of connections within the arts, because that's what the artists themselves need, or we need to have, in order to build equity within our industry. Yeah.
Kasozi also respond to concerns that pertain to the fact that when you inculcate a love message on political events, you actually dilute the political message that you want to put forward to the audience.
Yeah. Okay. That the political element is a rather tricky one. And it's easy to actually dilute one's work when you're trying to kind of, I'll say, survive within the industry, because doing certain works can make you feel like you're a target, even when you're not, because we have been used in the past to not have freedom of expression, to a point that in some cases, even when the freedom of expression is there, we self-censor. So you might do a work and immediately start to kind of question whether it's too satirical, whether it's too, am I pinpointing or pushing too many buttons and stuff like that. So if we're going back to the way Subira is now, with all the elements to do with the tribalism, and these are things that I know are also very pertinent back in Uganda. So I kept looking at it from the Ugandan perspective.
Yes, Kasozi.
How Ugandans handle this kind of thing.
So
politically, sometimes you can find that as an artist, it can be difficult, and artists tend to actually self-censor in Uganda.
All right, thank you very much, Kasozi.
Yeah.
He talks about self-censorship and so forth. Our industry is so much disorganized. Stephen Mbida is on standby within the city center to talk about, yes, the protests over the closure of religious institutions. A very good morning, my brother.